if you're consistently living a life whereby everything is important and urgent,
You will burn out.
you will confirm burn out.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But for today, I'm loving me.
Hi, I'm Daphne Koo, and welcome to episode 4 of Love and Me Conversations, brought to you by Love and Me, a youth mental wellness initiative by McDonald's Singapore. And today we have Asher on the show. We're going to be talking a little bit about wanting to open this conversation about youth mental wellness. And today we're kind of touching on burnout, which is something I think is starting at a younger age these days. But before we dive into it, tell us a little bit about yourself, Asher.
Well, thanks for having me. Right, my name's Asher and I'm a social worker by training. But I actually run an organization that works with youths who have mental health struggles called Limitless. Now, just to share a little bit more about myself, I've been working with young people for a long time. Too long. I wanted to tell you how many years, but I can't remember. But definitely more than 10, more than 15, I would say.
It's good, don't count.
Yeah. Also, when it comes to my area of specialty, it's in mental health. And even more so, I do a little bit more work in the area of trauma. But that said, like the organization that I run, Limitless, is an organization that works with young people from the age of 12 to 25 and provides accessible services. So if you're struggling out there, I mean, you can always reach out to us.
What do you mean by accessible services? So like maybe counselling and stuff like that? And
So-
do you do like community activities, group activities and meetups? And what's the extent of what Limitless does?
So we do quite a few things actually. So when we talk about accessibility, it's really about accessibility. We have 4 programs. So the first one is actually online. It's called Safe House and it's on Discord. So it's really a place for young people to get help anonymously and build community as well. The second program we have does a lot of outreach, and we go into schools, corporates, community clubs, and run programs for anyone, right? But really, it's about helping young people learn how to help people.
Wow, I love that.
Our other 2 programs, I would say, provide counselling and psychological services to young people who need it.
So you have obviously interacted with a lot of youths, and I feel like this term burnout, like for me, I would only think of burnout for like adults that are like working, like you have your work-life balance and all that kind of stuff. But the youth these days, they have a lot to juggle, in terms of like their social life, their schooling, their home life, and social media life. There's a lot for them to juggle. And has it changed over the years, like the kind of burnout that you see in terms of like how they get overwhelmed with life?
I do agree, and the burnout is real, right?
Yeah,
I think it's not really that the burnout is real, but the stresses are real. Yeah, a ton of stresses.
Do you think that's what burnout is? Like, would you describe it as just having a lot of stressors in their lives?
I would say burnout happens when you feel like you're unable to handle what life is throwing at you, or work is throwing at you in a more traditional context.
Yeah, I guess for the youth it would be like work would be like school, right? I guess.
But social media is work as well, right?
We were just talking about this before we started shooting. It does feel like a job, to keep up with the trends and what's going on online, or to make sure that you know what everyone's talking about. It's like extra homework almost.
Yeah.
But do you find that a lot of youths that you work with are facing these burnouts? Like, what is the most common burnout that you see?
I mean, actually, to be fair, I would say that compassion fatigue actually feels like the most common form of burnout. It can reach a point whereby there's so many things to care about that you're too tired to care.
Okay, too tired to care is compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So, because there is so much information, not just school, friends, family, but that you want to care about everything. Does it come to a point where they stop caring? Is that what the burnout kind of translates to?
I would say that there is a sign of burnout, we call it depersonalization. But I mean, really, they have so many things to care about, and it's not just, what's happening around them.
Yeah.
When we were younger, we only kind of like cared about the people in our life, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now you have to care about the entire internet.
Yes, the whole world, right? And you're worried about like things like, racism and stuff that's happening outside of your country.
Right. And like, I guess the labeling and knowing who you are, and that's already like, that was another episode, but finding out who you are, like, I think as you're a youth is, even into adulthood, can be quite daunting. And so that paired with like compassion fatigue, I'm sure, like, is like a deadly combination,
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say so.
So finding a balance between work, personal life, and self-care. I mean, these are three of the things that we do spend our time on.
Yeah.
How do you suggest like someone finds a balance in order to stay balanced and not, burn out?
I would say there are two ways. The first one is to really make sure that your tank is not running on empty. So we talk about self-care, but self-care doesn't always mean self-care, right? It doesn't mean like I go run or I go like meditate. That's what we think about when it comes to self-care, but actually self-care can include things like spending time with people who recharge us, right? So that's another thing. I think the other approach to really taking care of yourself is it's a time management approach.
Okay.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, we only have 24 hours in a day, and very often what happens is that they will revenge sleep procrastinate, which isn't
Revenge,
good.
sleep, procrastinate.
Yeah.
I actually fully know what that means, but just in case the audience doesn't, let's explain revenge. Because I have revenge slept a lot and not successfully because, like you're in a deficit and you don't know how to get it back. But yeah, maybe explain what that means.
So, revenge sleep procrastination is what happens when you have done so much like work in the day that you don't have any time to enjoy yourself. So you procrastinate your sleep and you go play games or you read,
Doom scroll.
you like doom scroll.
Yeah. Would you say that revenge sleep procrastination is a bad thing, or do you think it's something that people might need sometimes?
Well, I would say you need your sleep.
Yes, that's true.
So if you don't sleep well, I think everything goes downhill. I think sleep is very intrinsically, what's that word?
Intrinsically.
Intrinsically, yes. Sorry, it's too early. I revenge slept procrastinated last night.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because I think you do need or do you think sleep is more important than,
Sleep is
having
important.
More
Sleep is
important than like having that time to decompress?
I would say it's equally important.
Okay. Can decompress in your sleep.
You can sleep, right? You can decompress in your sleep. But I would say, being able to decompress a little bit so you can sleep is very important, because if you don't sleep, it does affect your mental health.
Yeah.
And it's like I mentioned, it's really, really linked to your mental well-being.
Yeah.
And even if you don't, even if you don't have a mental health issue,
You can get there without sleep.
Yeah, without sleep you can, right?
When it becomes a habit, and I think it creates this insomnia, because you're so used to like this habit of decompressing for a long time, and then I need to spend an hour doing nothing before I go to bed, and then even if I'm, getting home at 1, like it will still take me, like I still need that hour to do nothing before I go to sleep, and actually like really affects my sleep. And is there any way that like any routine that could encourage getting out of that, the revenge sleep procrastination breaker?
Well, I would say, going back to burnout, it's all, a big part of it is managing your time, right? So, that it does the same thing for revenge sleep procrastination as well, because you want to manage your time well. So understanding how long it takes you to get to sleep, right? You have to kind of like build that into your daily routine. And good sleep is all about good routines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a good life is about good routines and good habits, I guess.
Yeah, good life, good routines, good habits. I would say if you want to start breaking out of the habit of bad sleep, the easiest thing to do is not to fight to go to sleep at the same time every day. Because if you do that, you will just get anxious about it.
Okay,
And then I
fair.
don't know if you ever been in a situation whereby you start counting down the number of hours you have left to sleep.
Yep.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
it's been quite a thing. But I'm sure I'm not the only one, you know.
Yeah. So the easier thing to do is actually make sure that
Let
you
yourself.
wake up at the same time every day.
Oh, so that you're tired enough to fall asleep the next night.
Yeah.
Oh, good call.
So you start there, right? You start at waking up at the same time every day, and then it's really about building those kind of habits in your life. So when it comes back down to time management for burnout, I would say that you really do have to identify what are the important and urgent things, what are the important but not urgent things, and if you're consistently living a life whereby everything is important and urgent,
You will burn out.
you will confirm burn out.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about really
Prioritizing.
and there are some times, some things that you really don't have to do today. You can move it to another day and focus on the things that are important, but not always urgent. Yeah.
But there are scenarios where everything is important. And I have a couple of scenarios for you to kind of help equip us with some suggestions on what to do when you're in them. Are you ready? I'm going
Yes.
to give you some. Okay. So the first scenario is you've had a packed week and at the last minute, you've been given another big task to handle. What is your first reaction and how would you manage your stress in that situation?
Breathe.
Breathe. Okay, yes.
Yeah,
Important.
breathe first, right? So when I think about managing a difficult situation, I think I have to kind of just ground myself first. It's so easy to go into panic mode.
Yep.
Like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do, right? And I don't have enough time to do this. And I have
Just pure panic, yeah.
Yes, it's so easy to go into that mode, but I think once you are able to find yourself kind of grounded a little bit more, it's okay to go into that mode, okay, by the way, right? Panic first and then ground yourself later. It's real.
Yeah, panicking and feeling that anxiety when the situation or scenario comes up, it is very natural. It's
Yes.
very normal.
It's normal.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're faced with a difficult situation. Yeah, and then how? Yeah,
And
besides
then
breathing.
After that, right, take a deep breath first, right, and then start to look at what you need to prioritize. I think you do need to look at a few things. Number one, what are the resources that I have? Time is a resource. So if time is a resource, I need to prioritize what I can get done or what I should get done first,
Okay.
right? So the second thing is, who else is there to help me? Sometimes we forget that there are people around us that can help, right? That there are people around us that can teach us how to do things a little bit faster.
Or doing things together is
Yes.
actually just makes it faster than tackling it yourself.
Yeah, so resources are very important then. I think the third thing to do is to relook, right? Reflect on what am I doing, right? why do I have so many things to do?
Yeah.
Like, have I been putting off things early on? And then, if I like suffer now, can I like get myself back onto like a normal track, and just like chiong now, right? And reset?
Yes.
Or,
Or do you
is
need to reset now?
do I need to reset now, or do I need to think about like, is this a lifestyle that I want to live for the rest of my life? Because if this is gonna happen like all the time, then
Maybe
I might
for
not be
you.
cut out for this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. And it's okay, like it's okay to admit that, like the thing that you're chasing might not, like what you think you might have wanted, be it friends, be it a job, be it a
Yeah.
course at school. Like if you decide that that's too much for you, I think, like you said, moving forward and doing that reset is so important
Yeah.
because if you're burnt out now, it will only continue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, scenario number 2. Picture a day where you're stretched thin and even minor tasks feel overwhelming. How do you prioritize what really needs to get done versus what can wait? I guess it's that prioritizing.
It's really
situation.
prioritizing, but I think I like to kind of look back at what you mentioned about minor tasks feeling overwhelming. That's a sign of burnout.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a sign of burnout. And I think it's really in that moment that you need to take a bit of time to relax first, right? Ground yourself. I mentioned grounding yourself, breathing, finding a time to kind of like just 5 minutes to kind of like reset your internal space, right?
Yeah.
Headspace. Then really look at what you need to do. Once again, it's prioritization, but yeah, I'd like to bring you back to something that I share with my clients, that when you're burnt out, you can do 3 things, right? The first one is to relax. Second thing is to reflect.
Reflect.
Yeah, so reflect, think about like what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
Am I being inefficient? Is this the right place for me? Right? And I often ask this thing called miracle question. So if tomorrow you wake up and a miracle happened and everything's perfect and you're not tired anymore and you're not overwhelmed anymore, what would be the first thing in your life that would have changed? Well, for some people it could be like, I'm not working at this place anymore.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. But having that just like time to like reflect and talk to yourself about, like, take stock of what's happening in your life.
You have to do it. I mean, it's a must, right? Otherwise you're just going to keep chugging on, right?
Yes, I think a lot of people, youth and adults, get stuck in that cycle very often. Okay, so relax, reflect,
and then regroup. Yeah. So what I mean by regroup is to start making those decisions of what you've reflected on. Yeah. It could be
steps.
Yeah, it could be to relax more. It could be to be more intentional about my relaxation. It could be to, maybe drop a subject.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It could be to, spend less time playing games. That's real.
Or more time if you're going to be a gamer.
Yeah, so more time you're going to be a gamer.
But you mentioned grounding yourself.
Yeah.
Are there any exercises that anyone can do to ground themselves? Like
I would say grounding yourself is bringing yourself into the present moment. Yeah. So helping you kind of remove the worry about later and remove the regret about the past. Right? And just living right now. So there are a few exercises you can do. Some take a little bit more time, some don't take as much time. I would say one way to really ground yourself is this thing called 5 4 3 2 1 exercise.
Okay.
And just really present yourself into the moment, right? And think about, like, for example, 5 things you can see.
5 things you can see.
I see a brown cup in front of me, and kind of telling yourself that, as a, that white mug over there has like lines on it. I think it looks textured. It looks, maybe it's made of ceramic. Just taking that time to just look at what's around you, right? So 5 things you can see.
Wow.
And
Okay.
4 things that you can hear. So now I can hear the aircon whirring. I can hear, the chair creaking, maybe. So 4 things you can hear, right?
5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear,
3 things you can touch,
3 things you can
right?
touch.
I can feel, like, how my jeans feel. It's a little bit rough, but when I rub it, I can feel like my knee underneath. Right?
It's very like what is very practically in front of me, like,
Yeah.
right now.
What's in front of me right now,
So 3 things you can touch, and then
2 things I can smell.
2 things you can
Yeah.
smell. Can you smell 2 things at once?
You might not be able to, but actually by the time you reach the 3 things you can touch, most people are already quite grounded already.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just bringing you back to the present and remembering that what you have control over is what's in front of you.
Yes.
Well,
And-
but just to close it, because I will go crazy if I don't know what's the one thing.
Oh, it's one thing you can taste.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which in Singapore it can be easy to find.
Yes, it's very easy. In fact, you don't have to. You can kind of like just taste your own saliva.
Okay.
But if
Or
you
what you
really
just ate.
think about it, right, that everything has a taste, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That's true.
yeah. So it's really about
can't stop thinking about
being into that present moment, right?
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is I mean, if you really don't have any time, find something to do, right? Like what I'm doing now, I'm just rubbing my fingers up and down. When it comes to like just finding like a piece of
Material,
cloth and material to kind of rub and just kind of focus on how that feels, right? So that's something you can do when you have no time to ground yourself.
Yeah.
So some form of sensory, something that's sensory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's actually so helpful. Thank you. For me, myself. Okay, last scenario. Imagine you have, this one I'm sure a lot of people can identify with. Imagine you've planned a day off to recharge. You've set it aside. You've prioritized yourself. But then an urgent work request comes in, or like a group meeting or a group whatever project you have to work on. Would you delay your day off, or do you have a strategy for managing both without burning out?
So how urgent is it?
That's the first question you should ask yourself.
First question. Second one is, do I have to do it? Can it be someone else?
Yeah.
Alright, because if it's work, alright, then I mean, these kind of things happen once in a while, and you do recognize that if I'm working, it will happen, right? And if it's maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks, I would say that's
Once
okay.
a month is kind of a habit. Not gonna.
Well, just to kind of put things in perspective.
Yeah.
But if it's happening every week or all the time, then I think that's a question, right, that you have to kind of bring up to your boss about, like, why is this happening all the time?
Yeah.
It's eating to my leave, it's eating to my weekends, right? And maybe it's not you, but it's the organization. I mean, secondly, I would say, like, is there anyone else that can kind of do it or help with it? If you're a student and it's a group project and it's the only day that everybody's available, then go for it lah.
Yeah.
Right?
Or maybe call in or something,
Yeah.
if you really don't want to go out. But I guess it's kind of case by case.
It's really case by case. I think the other question is, how much do you actually need that break, right? And what you're going to be doing on that break. If
Probably nothing. Recharge days. I mean, everyone's different. Yeah.
So if you already have plans, so some people's recharge days are like, I'm going out with my family, or I'm going out with my friends, and there's like
sounds
stuff
exhausting.
booked already. Well, extroverts.
Yeah. Okay, fair. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's an extrovert's off day.
it's off extroverts off day.
Introvert's nightmare.
I know, right? I'm the kind that would stay at home.
Yeah, correct. Like not doesn't mean alone. Like maybe I'll be friends and family, like, but indoors, like kind of watching TV.
Yeah.
or something, Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really really helpful.
It really depends lah, right? You focus on what you need to do and prioritize.
So, can you give us some tips to when you're feeling burnout? Are there some steps that people might be able to take to try to like find a way out of that burnout?
Well, I do believe in this thing that I call the 3 R's, right? So you relax, reflect, and then regroup.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, would you encourage people to prioritize themselves, or do you think that some scenarios call for them to prioritize other people as well?
I would say it really depends on the scenario. Some scenarios require you to prioritize other people. Some scenarios require you to prioritize work. Some scenarios require you to prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
And it really depends on the level of tiredness and burnout you feel. And I would say when we go back to relax, before you reflect, I would say that you need to be intentional about your relaxation.
It's a discipline too, to set aside time to do that for yourself. Yeah.
So if that's the first R, by the way, so you can't even reflect without relaxing. So if you
So that's the order. Yeah.
Relax first,
Relax,
then reflect,
reflect,
then regroup. Right. So if you can't even relax, then that's a problem. So you need to be very intentional about taking time out to rest, intentional about your daily relaxation activities. Even if it's something as simple as sitting in the toilet. I know guys do that. Right, they go to the toilet, they sit down and they pretend to poop, right? And they play on their phone. Right?
Yeah.
So it's
I feel bad for guys now. You have to retreat to the bathroom to relax. Sometimes sitting on the toilet for too long is like the opposite of relaxing.
But well,
Thank you for your honesty.
yeah. But it's a thing, right? So being intentional about relaxing is important, right? So if you're not able to kind of relax, then you need to really start prioritizing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if if you know that you have a good thing going and something's tipping you over to the edge, but that thing is urgent. It's urgent and important. Then you need to prioritize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I'm working, I get paid, right? So I need to do
Yeah.
my job. Yeah.
But I mean, do you ever feel like at some point, if it's really, like you said before, at some point, if it's like the expectation is too high, continuously in short intervals, that's a discussion that you should have with your boss, though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, at least pay me more so I feel good about it. Or like, you know what I mean?
I don't know if
Or-
paying more will help.
I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes that's a good incentive for some people.
That
But
delays the burnout.
it delays the burnout.
It by like maybe a month or two. I think it's really about changing the work environment.
Yeah.
Because if you're really not able to deal with it, then you have to kind of either you are not skilled enough or equipped to handle the kind of work that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So somebody has to teach you or train you or get you up to speed.
So that it doesn't feel so hard to do the things that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I see.
Or you have too much on your plate. And it's really just too much. And someone else might be able to do it, but you're not able to do it, then
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There is nothing, like, I think knowing yourself, that's something that is an ongoing, all of these conversations are all about knowing yourself. And I think burnout is also about knowing what your capability is, and if you're doing your best, that's like the most you can do. And
Yeah.
if your best is just this much, like, I'm just saying that because I feel like I worry that people compare themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, someone can do more than me. I should be pushing myself. But when you get to the brink of burnout, I think that's a good indicator that you need to like reassess what your
Yeah.
capabilities are and be okay with that. Like love yourself through that. And that actually ties into one of the lyrics for the theme song camp for this initiative, which is Lovin' Me, and it's be kinder to the kid in me. Whether you talk about trauma as well, like all of us. And I think learning to love yourself, grounding yourself, that was such a helpful exercise. Like all of these things will help like make you a happier person, like just your day to day. Yeah.
Be kind to the kid in you, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna force the kid in you, like force a kid who can barely walk to run.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not forcing that kid to move at a pace that's unreasonable.
We might not expect that of someone else, but we might expect that of ourselves.
So you gotta be
sometimes.
kind to ourselves.
Yeah. I guess that's the message.
And sometimes, right, when it comes back to work, I think one thing that I've learned is that different flowers grow differently in different flower pots.
And they require a different amount of water.
Yeah.
And different amount of care as well.
You might thrive in a different one.
You might be a
Yeah.
cactus, and that's okay.
Yes.
Resilient. Okay, well, amazing. Thank you so much, Asher, for being here today. I think it's been a really important discussion because burnout is something that we all face no matter what age we're at. And I think the exercises that you've given today have been really, really helpful for myself especially too. And hopefully there's something that you can take away from this. And thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We'll catch you on the next episode of Love and Me Conversations.